Is this it? Is this the new lifestyle for you? What do you see moving forward with this?
Yes. I mean, this is the game changer. This is the system. This was the program I was looking for. And now I have figured it out. I have dialed it in. I have dropped almost 6 pounds in the first 7 weeks of the program, which for someone who was only looking to drop 9, and 9 was aggressive. I was not, I already had a low BMI. I, was already fit. I was not trying to drop a lot of weight. And honestly, if I had dropped, if I had dropped 5 pounds, that's what I consider in my head, my racing weight. And so to see a number on the scale that's below what I thought was the lowest I could go, was surprising. I'm almost 42. Who would think that they would be, at this weight, at this age? So this was exactly, it was what I needed. And that's what I was looking for. I just wanted a system that worked for me.
Hello, my honeys, it's Emmie. Today, I'm sharing with you the story of my client, Jaimie. Jaimie came to me with already a great knowledge base about the starch-based diet. She was an athlete, she was a runner. She never had really struggled with her weight, but getting into her 40s found that the pounds started to creep on. Now, she came to me already having tried a starch-based diet. It wasn't working. She only had 10 pounds to lose and she had IBS. And between all these things, she felt like she had exhausted every effort. But I'll let Jaimie tell the story here of how she was able to get the last 10 pounds off after not being successful on a starch-based diet and sharing her success with you. So let's get into it. And before we get into it, if you're interested in working with me, go to healthyemmie.org. Also make sure that you hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell because I upload a new video every Wednesday and Saturday.
My name is Jaimie. I am a mother. I am a wife to almost 17 years, a mother to a 10-year-old and a 12-year-old. I work part-time as an epidemiologist, and I am a big runner. And running has probably been something that I've been interested in for probably the past 12 or 13 years. I've always been an athlete, even growing up. So after college, I played tennis for a while. And then after I had kids, I started running because it was just a more efficient way of getting exercise and getting those endorphins in.
So Jaimie, growing up, because you were a runner and an athlete, what was your relationship with food and exercise like growing up?
So I always had a good relationship with food and nutrition. Growing up, I was actually a gymnast. So from age 7 until 21, I competed in gymnastics at some level. So I was always in tune with nutrition, and I always knew it was very important. I remember even as a young girl, I never liked hamburgers. It was just something, I just never liked the taste of hamburgers. And I remember getting a gymnastics magazine in the mail, and they had an Ask Mary Lou, article at the end of every magazine. And someone had written in about red meat, and she made a comment that red meat was not good for you. You should try and limit it. And I immediately, as a 7 or 8-year-old, took it to my parents and said, see, I don't have to have hamburgers. And after that, I never had a hamburger again, and still haven't for the rest of my life. So, so nutrition has always been something. I was never a big meat eater. I wasn't vegetarian until I was probably about 30. I think it was around when my daughter was born is when I kind of shifted to being a vegetarian. But I never was a big meat eater, and I always liked fruits and vegetables. So I always was conscious of what I was eating, never restricting myself, but just conscious of trying to get in healthy fruits and vegetables, trying not to eat processed foods, but obviously that creeps in as a teenager, and as a kid, you eat chips and cookies and things like that.
And then I remember we first met about 2 months ago, because you said, it was this sort of situation all throughout your teens, 20s, 30s, but then the weight started to creep up. and you are a fantastic runner. You are very fast. You have a goal of breaking 3 hours in the marathon. So this must have felt a bit out of place for you. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So I was training for the Boston Marathon for 2020, and it was probably, I think, 4 or 5 weeks out when the pandemic really hit. And they postponed it until September. And I had a goal of trying to break 3 hours and 30 minutes in the marathon. And I've been trying to work for that for about 4 years. I had hit 3:35, 3:36, I think 4 times, and never anything kind of, the weather or the training, an injury, something would always come up. And I was training and I was working really hard. And then I saw the press conference where they postponed it, and the pandemic was starting. My kids were coming, it was virtual school was starting. And when you're training, I had been training for probably, 12 or 13 weeks at that point. And I was not super excited, obviously very bummed that it wasn't going to happen. And I was nervous. September could be really warm in Boston. That's not how you want to run a marathon. So, we all kind of relaxed. And especially where we live in the neighborhood, there's a lot of kids, and we were outside a lot because there's nothing else you could do. So came, the daily happy hours in the cul-de-sac, and lots and lots of chips were eaten, and more fun foods were eaten because we couldn't go anywhere. We couldn't do anything. And yeah, last summer was probably the first summer I really did not feel 100% confident in a bathing suit. And we were at the pool all summer long because it was the only place we could go. And I didn't like that feeling. And I talked to my husband about it, and we've always been very active people and just conscious of health and nutrition. So he kind of said, well, we're over 40. This could be the new us, carrying an extra couple pounds. It wasn't a lot. I mean, it was 4 or 5 pounds, but I'm only 5'3". So 4 pounds on me is different than 4 pounds on my husband. And while I knew that it could be, it could just be that losing this weight wasn't going to happen. And this was the new me, but I didn't want to succumb to that. I kind of wanted to see if I could still stay as lean as I could and be able to train and hit the marathon goals that I had.
And then you found the starch solution. Tell us what happened when you found the starch solution.
So that summer of 2020, I found the starch solution. I was like, this is amazing. This is exactly what I need, because it's high starch. And as a runner, I feel like I run better on carbs. I'm not someone high fat. I never crave protein. I've never craved a chicken breast or a piece of meat or anything. But I love carbs. So I thought this is perfect. But I have been diagnosed with IBS, and I do have a gluten intolerance. So that's also been something that I've struggled with, that during flare-ups, the bloating and the uncomfortableness has caused me to eat a lot more processed foods than I would like, because it's the easier the digestion, the easier it was for me. So when I saw the starch solution, I thought, great, this is perfect. This is exactly what I need. It tore me up. I read the book front to cover. I tried it, and it did not, it wasn't exactly what I needed. The type, I think I wasn't in tune with the types of vegetables I could eat versus not eat. They don't really, the book is great and it's a great starting point, but I needed more than that. And I tried it and it didn't work. And I was so bummed. I was miserable, bloated, just uncomfortable. It, didn't lose any weight, which I only tried it for, I think, like 8 days. And I was just like, I can't do it. So I was very disappointed. I thought that was going to be what I needed, and it wasn't. And I was very disappointed.
That is so disappointing, because, Dr. McDougall is so convincing and the way that he speaks, it just makes you want to dive in, and you read the book and it makes sense. You see all these people having success, and then you try it. And, if you're a marathon runner, when you put your mind to something, you do it. So to have that, to go all in and then to experience that, it's like, well, now what? So what do you do at that point?
So then I looked at, maybe I do need more protein. So I looked at macros and, do I need, and I bought a macro book and I thought, okay, this is what I need. But then it didn't specify exactly, it's like, well, you need a range of this much protein, you need a range of this. And it wasn't specific. And it was like, well, if you're a vegetarian, you can do this. And if you're vegan, you can do this. And I wasn't vegan, but I was like, but the vegan one had less protein. And I thought maybe then I could have more carbs. And I kind of played around with it. And again, like after a week, I didn't lose any weight. I felt awful. I didn't like, I hated counting the macros, but I also didn't like the idea of having to supplement with the proteins. Like the woman that I was looking at, she was having protein water, paying $2 for this protein water. And I'm going, I don't want to do that. I would rather I was trying to go more basic, not trying to buy $2 of some water that has, magic protein in it that was supposed to help me. And it wasn't. So I tried macros, I tried calorie counting a little bit. And it's tedious. And I love math as much as the next person. I was a math major. I have a master's in epidemiology. I love math. I love counting, but I don't want to count my food. I don't want to weigh my food. And it was so tedious. And especially with everyone being home over the summer, it was, I didn't have the time for that and didn't really want to do it, but didn't have the time. And then when the kids get out, my husband would get out a bag of baked chips and hummus, and we would snack on that while we were making lunch for everybody. And that wasn't what we wanted. You would think, oh, well, it's baked chips and it's hummus, it's healthy, but either I was going to eat it and not count it, or I was going to try and weigh it, which was just ridiculous. So counting calories and counting macros just wasn't for me.
And then you spend all of that energy doing all of the mathematics for it, and you find the perfect, what's going to fit, what's not going to fit. And then you have to go on a 14-mile run, which you don't have energy for because the portions are so small. You've already used so much energy doing all the counting for it. It is exhausting, everything about it.
Yes, it was exhausting, and you would get hungry. There were times, as a runner, we call it runger in our house. Mommy gets rungry, and I have to eat. And when I don't have the calorie, when I look at it and say, well, I only have 200 calories left and I'm starving, then you're just miserable. Then you're grumpy. You're hungry and you're grumpy. So that's not a fun place to be either.
What month are we in at this point?
We're probably like September at this point, September of 2020.
Okay. So September 2020, try the macros things, exhausted. How long did this last for?
Oh, again, like a week. Like I just couldn't do it. I could count for like 3 or 4 days and I'd be pretty good at it. I wasn't losing anything, but I could count it. But then after that, you just you either want something different or something that's difficult to count, or if we went out if we ordered in, how are you supposed to, there was just no way to count those things. So again, everything was like between 5 days and 8 days.
And you prepare the food for pretty much everybody in your house too. So not only do you do all the mathematics for you, but you have to make sure this person's taken care of, that person's taken care of. It's just too much.
Yes.
Now what?
So I ended up, in September was the Boston 2020. They made it virtual. So I did run the Boston 2020 in Atlanta where I live. And actually it was one of my favorite experiences. My husband and my friend went crazy with decorations. I had cheering stations like all 26 miles. It was incredible. So that was a lot of fun. I kind of just focused on making that a fun day, and it was. And then again, it was like, okay, there's nothing on the horizon. What am I going to do? We were getting ready to start a home renovation. And I kind of just thought, okay, we're going to take the next couple months, continue to research what will work. And in January, after the first of the year, I'm going to have all the tools in hand and I'm going to know exactly what I need to do. And again, I came back to the starch solution and I said, this is the carbs that I need. It doesn't push meat. It doesn't push protein. It pushes fruits and vegetables and grain and starches. So I need to just recommit to this. And I, read the book again, figured I was just going to start it in January, continued to do more research in December. And I started finding other YouTube videos that looked at starch solution. I was like, okay. And I came across your YouTube video and just everything you said was exactly what I needed to hear. You talked about systems and programs and honing in and figuring out what worked for you and all this kind of stuff. And the accountability and the one-on-one information just really rung true. So I really tried January, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, whatever it was. I tried to do the starch solution again on my own and it didn't work again. That's when I said, forget it. Like, I'm tired of buying stuff. I'm tired of doing things. This woman says it'll work. She's got YouTube interviews of people that are 20 something all the way to 60 something, and they're losing weight. So this can work across, multiple generations. But everything you said in your YouTube videos was exactly what I needed to hear. And I thought, this is the plunge I need to take. This is the starch solution plus.
So I love this because you had tried the starch solution and this SOS is a little bit different. There are some things that are a little bit different, and we talk about hunger and fullness, and there's all these different things that make it a little bit different from the starch solution. Would you like to share some of the aha moments that you had through the Slim on Starch program that really were game changers for you and have contributed to your success?
Yes. So for me, I like the idea that you have to, you log your food and that you take a picture and just write down what it is that you ate. You don't have to say portions. You don't have to measure anything. You just kind of, write down what it is. So two things happened. One was one day I had my vegetable was broccoli and it tore my stomach apart. And it was right then that I noticed, it's the broccoli. It's not all that, I knew it wasn't all vegetables, but I was like, immediately I had noticed. So I can have some broccoli, but broccoli can't be my only vegetable for the meal because I'm having, decent sized meals. Broccoli can't be the only vegetable I have. So that was one, like in the first week, I noticed that. And I was like, I did read your de-bloat document. That was the first thing I read because I needed to. So I noticed that, so those were the two big things. And then just each week, as you build something new into your repertoire of SOS, there were things that I would notice, yes, with the hunger and fullness scale, this is typically how I feel after potatoes, whereas this is how I feel after rice. I have to be more careful. I'm more likely to overeat rice than I am, potatoes. So I need to, maybe start with a little bit smaller portion and see, and kind of going through the hunger and fullness cues, has really been a game changer because I will notice. And the other thing is by just documenting what you're eating, there are times when I could feel myself go towards the snacker grazer that I typically am, where I would, my old self would have just gone. And I used to snack on things when I was cooking dinner because I was already hungry. I could eat dinner much earlier than my family could. So I would a lot of times snack while I was cooking dinner. And a lot of times I would snack on what you would consider health food. I mean, it was organic granola that I had bought at the farmer's market. You could understand every ingredient that was in there. I probably consumed 800 or 1,000 calories of this granola while I was cooking dinner. So just each week, something new would come into, my system.
You were so close before coming into the Slim on Starch program. You were so close. You just needed little tweaks here and there. And those tiny little tweaks had such a big impact. for example, documenting your food and having the structure, and then being able to pluck out, I got bloated after this meal, what did I have? And then you can pull up your food log and look at your phone and see, oh, there's a picture of what I had. It was the broccoli. And so having that there, because you have a million things to take care of, you have kids, a husband, a job, all of this stuff to think about. And then that being there in a nice, clean little journal, it's so easy for you to pluck out. And then with the, snacking before dinner thing, because we have you do that exercise where you plan out, what your schedule looks like, and then you change your meals to fit to your schedule. Breaking the social constructs of being allowed to eat at a certain time, and not even allowed, you're 41 years old, you can eat whenever you want, but it's just, it's a social construct that we adhere to. And, like you said, it's 5 o'clock. You don't eat at 5 o'clock. You wait until dinner at 6 o'clock and then you can eat. So I'm just going to snack now. So breaking that and making those tiny little tweaks, because you were so close. And now it's locked in. And I'm so happy that you didn't give up and you kept searching. And, that's the runner in you. That's the athlete in you that keeps working towards something. But I'm so happy that you did take the plunge and come to SOS, because you were so close. It just were tiny little tweaks that had to happen.
Exactly.
Is this it? Is this the new lifestyle for you? What do you see moving forward with this?
Yes. I mean, this is the game changer. This is the system. This was the program I was looking for. And now I have figured it out. I have dialed it in. I have dropped almost 6 pounds in the first 7 weeks of the program, which for someone who was only looking to drop 9, and 9 was aggressive. I already had a low BMI. I was already fit. I was not trying to drop a lot of weight. And honestly, if I had dropped, if I had dropped 5 pounds, that's what I consider in my head, my racing weight. And so to see a number on the scale that's below what I thought was the lowest I could go, was surprising. I'm almost 42. Who would think that they would be, at this weight, at this age. So this was exactly, it was what I needed. And that's what I was looking for. I just wanted a system that worked for me. And I like the food. It's not a stretch for me. Because I'm a runner, I don't have a problem eating potatoes. I love oatmeal. I've always loved oatmeal, but I didn't eat it a lot of times because I was like, oh, well, you want to save your carbs for, if you want a sandwich, or if you want rice, oh, well, we're going to do Chinese tonight. So, if I'm already making rice tonight, I shouldn't have, oatmeal and rice, I love oatmeal. So I have no problem eating oatmeal every single morning. I make it in the Instapot. I make a big batch of it every 3 days, and I'll go through it, and then I'll, start another one. So for me, the food hasn't been a huge change. If I don't have fresh vegetables, I'll go in the freezer and I'll pull. I always keep the frozen veggies that you can throw in the microwave and steam them, and just throw that on top of some potatoes or some rice. And then we'll use a little bit of coconut aminos or some seasonings that I've purchased, that most of them have no salt, and a lot of times I will add a little salt to the top of my food, because we noticed that I kind of needed a little bit of salt because I do sweat a lot running. So the food has been great. I've started to try some of the other potatoes when I can find them, and it's been an adventure.
So you have kids, you have a husband. What does it look like with them and their food in comparison to what you're eating?
So it's very different. No one else is even a vegetarian in my house. They're all meat eaters. And so traditionally meals have always been that way. I was a vegetarian. I think when I was pregnant with my daughter, I think meat just really made me nauseous. And so I don't think I ate any meat while I was pregnant with her. And then after she was born, I just wasn't craving it. And as I was nursing, I kind of didn't like the idea of milk and dairy. So I switched from, my regular milk to almond milk. So I was already doing that. So at that point, my husband was a big meat eater. So by the time my daughter was born, our meals were very different, and they've always been that way. Sometimes I would, right now I can get away with, making my meal and then adding a protein for them. And sometimes I just make them a separate meal, and then I just pull from the refrigerator, potatoes or rice and vegetables and beans. And I'll just throw that. I'll just throw my meal in the microwave for 2 minutes and I'm ready, and I'll make them something different. I did make my husband watch Game Changers with me. And since that wasn't just a documentary about veganism, there was a lot of athletes involved and performance things involved. He was intrigued. And so not that he's, going to, become vegetarian or anything, but he was intrigued. And we kind of, with Lent, we kind of converted, Fridays from not just meat free, but trying for the family to try and make some changes. And maybe one day a week we can continue where the family pushes towards a no meat, no dairy day, and see how that moves forward.
So it sounds like, you're really doing your thing in comparison to the rest of the family. How much time would you say you invest each week so that you can be set for the week on top of what you're doing for your kids and your husband?
So typically I take a couple days, and I don't have a set schedule. It's kind of like because we're all home all the time, that, like I said, I'll make a big pot of oatmeal every 3 days. And sometimes my children will eat the oatmeal and sometimes they won't. So sometimes I may make it, may make oatmeal 3 times a week, and sometimes I'll make it, twice a week, depending if they're eating it. And that's not a big deal. Sometimes I'll just make it right before I leave for a run or right after I get back, and I'll, go upstairs and shower and then come down and it's ready. As far as the, potatoes go, sometimes I'll just, if I'm making potatoes for me or the family, sometimes I'll just double or triple the batch and make it and store it in the refrigerator. The same with rice. A lot of times if we're having rice for dinner, I'll just quadruple the amount of rice that we want, and then I'll just throw it in. Vegetables, I usually don't pre-chop a lot. I'll buy, some baby carrots and things like that. But a lot of times while I'm heating something up in the microwave or reheating potatoes or something, I'll just chop up some vegetables. Or like I said, I keep a lot of frozen vegetables in the freezer, and I'll just whip out, a stir fry or some sort of veggie sampler pack, throw it in the microwave while I'm, cutting something up or doing something. So every couple of days, I'm always, have the oven on with potatoes in there, or the air fryer or the Instapot, just kind of at odd times, just kind of in between, finishing up lunch, cleaning up, I'll throw potatoes in the Instapot and then walk away. So usually it's the food prep is very easy for me. I don't mind being in the kitchen. I like being in the kitchen. So I don't have a problem with throwing a couple things. So for me, I just batch a couple days a week of whatever I'm feeling that day or whatever I have on hand, and then just throw it in the microwave or throw it in the refrigerator. And then when I'm ready for it, I'll just heat it up in the microwave, and it'll take 5 minutes for me to make a meal.
I know that a concern for some people that are in a groove that you're in, it's a groove similar to what I'm in. My significant other eats totally differently from me. The concern is, well, then, with my grocery budget, that's a whole other, if everybody's eating this way and then I eat this way, that's a whole nother thing on top of that. And I always say, potatoes are like 79 cents a pound. I mean, this oats and rice, it's all so inexpensive. But what does that look like for you? Because as a mom with a family, everybody has their budget and you got to meet the budget. So how do you work that out? Have you found something similar to what I found?
Yeah. I mean, I did a lot of smoothies after runs, and I mean, protein powder is expensive. So when you're taking away the protein powder and you're adding in oats, and I'll just buy the biggest oats that I can find in the grocery store, I pay like $3 maybe for a huge thing of oats. And compared to, $14 for, protein powder, it's a no-brainer. I mean, I'm definitely eating much simpler. I'm not buying fancy sauces. I'm not constructing these crazy recipes. I mean, it's potatoes, vegetables, beans, and a little bit of coconut aminos or hot sauce or something like that. My meals are dirt cheap. Sometimes I'll throw in some tofu, if I'm crazy, but yeah, I mean, and even if you buy the canned beans, even if you buy canned beans compared to buying them in bulk and doing them at home, I mean, it's still, you can get organic black beans for 99 cents a can. I mean, you can't beat that. I mean, even chicken on sale is going to be, $1.99. So for us, it hasn't, I mean, we had always bought potatoes and rice. Yeah. Now we're buying them in bulk, but we're not having to increase our grocery bill. It's definitely decreased.
Yeah. And, in comparison to when you're doing the whole macros thing, I know a lot of people like to buy the little single size portions of things because it has all the macros and the calories are listed, and it's so much waste, and it's way more expensive when you buy those single serve things, or people will buy the special protein cookies and all that crazy stuff. It's so expensive for this stuff. And this is way, way cheaper. So thank you for saying that, because I have found the same thing.
Yeah, it's just been so nice to go back to a simpler eating, of not having to buy protein cookies. I mean, if you just even look at the ingredients in there, I mean, I was already before SOS, I was already looking to pare back, not having protein powders every day, and not having some of these, even the goos and things that you use for running. I was kind of thinking, what are better ways? I knew, I probably can't go to like a date kind of situation because of my stomach. Like, that's not going to work in a marathon. But I've moved to like Swedish fish, which tastes much better than, one of those gels or goos or something. And just popping a couple of those, and they taste much better. And I buy a huge bag. My family steals them, but I buy a huge bag for $5, and it could last me like a year probably. Whereas each goo was like $2 or $3 and doesn't taste as well. So I was already trying to move towards a more simpler way of eating before SOS. And this just kind of just gave me the push that I needed.
And do you have any races that you're training for at the moment?
So I don't technically. I did, because of my marathon time from Boston of 2019, I was able to get into the Chicago Marathon with a guaranteed entry. So I do have that on my plate for October. So I do have that kind of lurking, but that's one thing I said in January was, I've always used the excuse that I was running. And so I had to, I have to have another serving of this because I'm running tomorrow. And in January, I said, no, nutrition will be the number one focus. And I still run. I run 5 days a week, and I still kept up with what I was doing, but I wasn't going to be concerned that if I didn't hit my speed workout, or I didn't hit my long run, or I felt sluggish, I was going to be okay. Because right now it was about working the nutrition back in and figuring out what I needed. And then after I hit my goals, I could kind of move on to more maintenance and up some of these calories and some of these foods, and bring in some of the later foods, and that would continue to help. But I haven't noticed much of a difference, and seem to be back on track and still losing weight.
Spoken like a true athlete. You took a little time to step back from, the off season, so to speak, even though you're still working out, but to take a step back, focus on nutrition. And then once you got that all set, then you can dive back into training for something and playing the long game, so that you can figure out the nutrition now and then it can carry you throughout the rest of your life. Otherwise, it's trying to keep your head above water.
All right, my honeys, that is it for today's video. If you are still watching, then comment runner, because Jaimie is a runner and I'm a runner, but she's a really, really good runner. So comment runner, and I'll see you in my next video.